started as well. We'll start with a very quick introduction, and then I'll hand over the stage to Alessandra. Is anyone else waiting? Okay, 26 people, perfect. Okay, let's get started. So hi everyone, thanks for joining us today on Tech Product Strategy 101. A few words about the Tesseract Academy, who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do. Our goal is to help decision makers implement and understand technology faster, easier, and better. And we work with companies of all sizes, and especially with non-technical decision makers like CEOs, entrepreneurs, product people, etc. And we help them better understand topics like data science, AI, product management, project management, what we really call the soft parts of technology, especially emerging technology like blockchain and AI. We're a network of experts with many, many years of combined experience across many different fields, from data strategy to blockchain to entrepreneurship to product. Obviously, as you see today, AI ethics is another one of the areas we started working on recently. And we organize regular events, workshops, but we also provide coaching and consulting services. So who I am, I'm going to be the host and moderator for today. My name is Stelios. I'm the CEO of the Tesseract Academy. I have more than 10 years of experience in data science and AI, but also have considerable experience in blockchain, being one of the prime economics experts in the world. I'm an honorary research fellow of UCL's Blockchain Center and a data science advisor for London Business School, as well as a mentor in Cambridge University's Entrepreneurship Center. I've also written up a book called The Decision Maker's Handbook to Data Science. If you just want to send me an email, I'll be more than happy to send you a copy. And here are some of the entrepreneurs that they have worked with us. As I mentioned, we work with companies of all sizes. So here are some of the entrepreneurs that we helped on topics such as data strategy or better define the product, but we also work with bigger companies where they're holding workshops for some organizations like Vodafone, British Land, or the US Navy, or helping them with implementation of data science, AI, or blockchain algorithms. The structure for today, so first of all, very happy to have Alessandra with us. She's doing some amazing work in product and something which I would call digital archaeology. I think she's using kind of a similar terminology. She's a leading expert in human-centered tech and product strategy. And as you see, the bio is quite long, so I don't want to read all of it. She can say more about herself. She's also the creator of Tilt. Alessandra, feel free to add the link in the chat of where people can learn more about you and how they can join Tilt. And today, Alessandra will talk about Product Strategy 101. And then after the presentation, there's going to be a short Q&A. The event will run for up to an hour with a hard stop at 25 past. So that was it for me. Thanks, everyone. And now, Alessandra, the stage is yours.
Okay, I have prepared like few slides to support my presentation. So I'm just gonna, hello everyone to begin with. I'm just gonna quickly show them. Is it okay? Can you see them?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Double check everything. Okay, so hello everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I mean, I did not expect so many people, so this is a wonderful surprise, and super happy to see there are so many people from the product community. The product community is an amazing one, a very supportive one, and I always enjoy like meeting people from the community. This is probably might be a little bit boring because it's a 101, so it's really the basics of product strategy. So for all the people at a very high level in product, these are probably going to be things that you know. But the presentation is just one little part of the whole meeting, and then we'll have Q&A, so we will be able to discuss more. And I would be happy to answer, and discuss any topic you might have. So first, about me. I'm an Italian. I'm originally Italian, been living in Switzerland, based in Zurich for quite some time. I think it's about 14 years that I've been living here. My surname is indeed complicated. So it's, I tell people, also my students, just don't worry, just say it as you want to say it, or just call me Alessandra. That's also fine. My background is in tech. This is where I come from. So I started with a computer engineering degree. I went on to defend a PhD in systems and computer engineering. Then I moved in UX, etc. And this is like most of the work I have done and I still do is in tech. That's why the title of this little workshop is actually tech product strategy, because that's the vertical I focus on. It's my main vertical. What I daily do, so I'm an advisor for product strategy in the tech vertical. At the moment, I'm working with 3 companies in the tech space. I'm also a mentor for different accelerators, and I'm a lecturer in here in Zurich at the Swiss Business School. I'm also the founder of Aures. Aures is the name of this little advisory company that I started that focuses on product strategy, but tries to bring in a human-centered approach. Why a human-centered approach? I like to say that, especially in the B2C space, there is so much tech that today, in order to make our products different, to make our products stand out in so much, every day we have like hundreds, if not thousands, of apps coming in the Apple Store, right? So if we want our product to really stand out, then one of the best things we can do is to focus on a human-centered approach. So not just on the experience that our users have once they land on our tech, whether it's an app, whether it's a software, whether it's a website, but we need to start before that. So we need to understand what is it that brings them to look for such a possible solution, and what is it that we can give them that might stop them with us, because that's a problem. And I think you have noticed this type of behavior in yourself as well, that today there is so much tech that I don't have to go with the first one I find. If the first one I find isn't what I'm looking for, I'm just going to move on to the next one. So that's why I focus so much. For me, is one of the most important pillars in product strategy, to bring in this human-centered approach. Here are I'm leaving some. I have some links to connect with me. So I will share it. I will try to share it later on in the chat. This is LinkedIn. It was also linked in the description of this workshop on the Eventbrite page. From there, you can find, the link to my advisory website. This is my email address. And the last one here is what Stylianos was mentioning before. So it's a little newsletter that I have that I build out of the passion really for the job, where I every 2 weeks I take one very famous product, like of the likes of, I don't know, Netflix or Canva, like these more than unicorn companies and startups, and I go back in time, by using the web archive, by really digging the internet to find out how everything started. So what did they do? What was the strategy at the beginning to survive the war of startups that are around nowadays? And not only that, but to overcome the first obstacle and then place themselves in the market as winning products. So feel free to also subscribe to my newsletter. I am also the creator of Tilt, which then gives the name to the newsletter. Actually, Tilt is a framework. It's the name stands for Tech in the Loop. This framework is now published in a peer-to-peer reviewed academic journal, and it took a method used in artificial intelligence, which is human in the loop, and I sort of flipped it around and rebuild sort of the product strategy framework by adding the human-centered approach in all the different stages of the strategy. So the article is also on my LinkedIn page. So if you're curious to read, like, you will also find there the link to the journal where the article was published. Okay, so let's go into our 101 product strategy, right? So the idea is to have an overview of the main elements. This is what I would like to do today, to just look at every element and just try to understand what are the main points in each of the element. So to begin with, I'd like to start with a definition of product strategy. No, there isn't really a common definition. I think if you look around, like, everybody likes to say it a little bit different. But I thought this one, I find my thinking very much into this definition, because I think there are like one or two things that are very much underestimated. So product strategy is the art and science of understanding customer problems, and so far so good. I think this is immediate, right? And aligning the organization around creating desirable outcomes for customers and your business. I find that this last part is very often underestimated. So product strategy isn't just about find a successful product, a great idea that your customers absolutely want and are going to pay for it, right? But it has to be in line with what you want for your business. This is extremely important in a big company when you build your product portfolio. So the idea that your portfolio is all aligned by a specific goal that is one of the main goals of your business, because you don't want to end up with a product portfolio that is completely misaligned. And it becomes even more important for entrepreneurs and startups, because in the race of being successful, too often founders forget of aligning their specific product strategy with the goal, with the vision that they have in mind for their business. And what happens is that at the end of the race, when they finally start seeing results, when they have placed the product, and they're getting back like revenue and everything, they might find themselves completely misaligned as founders and the product and the startup and the vision that they had in mind. So these are the main elements I'm going to touch upon today. So we go from the vision and mission, which is true for the product, but it starts really from the business, all the way down to evolution and growth. So we have vision and mission, product opportunities, discovery and requirements, business model and pricing, product development, product to market, product evolution and growth. So I have listed them in this order, and also the way they are listed. So the different elements start from an assumption that we are considering all the phases of a company and of a product. Clearly, the list can be different, and the way the strategy is approached can be different based on the phase that the company is at. So if you are at the beginning, the very beginning of a business, the early stages, then you will have an approach. If you are a middle size, an SME company, you'll have another approach. And if you are a big company, a corporate company, you'll have a different approach, meaning these ones will be, some of them might not be there, some of them might be established and you need to work more on some others. It might mean that the iteration is in a different order, etc. Right? So the order I'm going to show you all these elements isn't necessarily, so you shouldn't take it as a, this is the way you should do it. First this, first this, first this, because many of them are iterative. So many of them you have to go back to some of them, do it again, integrate some more feedback or change, their perspective, etc. So the vision and the mission, I think there is a lot of talking. about this. No, especially the startup world, like everybody talks about like the North Star and how it helps, keeping people focused. It is a very important point. So even if we keep hearing about it, we just can't skip it, and we should absolutely not skip it. So when we look at the single product, so here we're looking at the vision and the mission of the single product, always remembering that this vision and mission should be in line with the vision and the mission of the company. So it cannot be completely different, because it means that it's not supporting where your business should go. The more inspiring, the better. No, because the idea is that you wanna be inspired in the moment things don't go very well, or it has to push your team out of a comfort zone so that you can get a bigger portion of the market if you want. So it's I brought here an example which is very, very, very common, and it's very known, and this is Henry Ford. But I like this example a lot because this is really extremely inspiring, extremely human-centered. So Henry Ford, we know that he was building cars, but his vision was to bring cars to everyone. Now imagine we were all still using the horses, and suddenly there is the first car. Imagine how expensive that car was. So his dream was actually to allow everyone, independently by their status or how much money they had. So he wanted to make it affordable. And he wanted to make it affordable so that everybody could improve their quality of life by buying a car and being able to go from A to B faster. So I like this one because here comes in really how the human centricity can be extremely inspiring for whatever vision you want your product to have. Because when we improve quality of life, when we bring something, that is improving people's life, it becomes very inspiring for us. It becomes very, very nice and useful for the people that buy it. So product opportunities is the phase where we actually look. So what kind of product we can build. I mean, the idea for a product can come from different aspects. Again, it strongly depends on the size of the company. When we look at entrepreneurs, when we look at early stage, very often the idea comes from their own experience, whether they have encountered a pain point and they had to find a way to solve it for themselves, or whether they were in science and research and they had this idea and they thought it was great to bring it to everyone else. And this is like very small size, right? Like solopreneur or a team of founders in a startup. When we go to the other side of the spectrum and we go to a bigger company, then the product opportunities are looked at in a different way, right? It's not just, maybe we have this pain point, we can do it. We look at the customers, we try to understand the market, we also understand our capabilities. So this is, for example, there are different approaches to how we can look at product opportunities. But let's say, if we want to identify a gap, like the main things we would look at is, okay, what are socially, starting from social, so what are the problems that people have? Where is it that they are like, they need help, or we look at historical trends. So what happened in the past that can be repeated in the future, etc. Then we look at the economics. So how much people are willing to pay for a specific product, how much margin they have to pay for one more product. And then we look at the technology. So at which point, what's the state of the art of the technology? What can we use in technology that can support us in filling that gap that we have identified? So when we go in a company, that's basically the exercise that we do to understand where lies our opportunity. So we identify customer problems. So if we are a big company, we tend to look at the customers we already have. So customer support is one of the best places where to understand the problems our customers are having. And I find that way too often customer support is actually underestimated. But customer support is a pool, is a gold mine, you know, because they are the ones that have to listen to the customers. They have to provide support, and you know, they are the first ones that hear about the problems. And then the second part is the technology solution. So what alternative can be provided to the ones that are already existing, because it's very difficult today to build a product, especially based on tech that doesn't exist already. So what's happening right now is that multiple people have similar ideas, and then they just present a different, you know, approach to the same idea. So what we want to understand is that, okay, we have identified a problem. We think we can build a product, a specific product to solve that problem. Would our alternative be better than what the customer can already find outside? And then the third one, and one of the most important, is, do we have the capabilities to actually build that product? So imagine, you know, a very tech-oriented product identified by a company that isn't in the tech field. The capability isn't there. The capability can be built. You can bring in a technical team to try to build a technical company, but you don't have, in that exact moment, you don't have the expertise, you don't have the background, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the history in tech. So you really need to understand, okay, if I bring a tech team inside, you know, in the company to build that specific tech product, is this going to work, or is this going to cost me money? And then I will not be able anyway to enter the market. And one of the most known framework that is used in product opportunities, the jobs to be done. So this is jobs to be done is an exercise that is normally done to understand the customer problems, you know, more in details. And we do that by focusing on the outcomes. So on what the customers want to achieve, and not on the product, because that's sometimes like the mistake that is done. And I find that in tech, actually, it happens quite often, that we focus on the products, on the product, on the features that this product might have, on how cool it would be to have this other feature. And we don't really know what the customer wants to do with our product. So there is this quote from Theodore Levitt that is very interesting, that says exactly what I have in mind. People do not buy stuff. They buy what stuff does for them. So they are interested in achieving a goal, you know, or doing something. And this is what we want to sell them, something that helps them achieving their goal. The next phase is the product discovery. So Teresa Torres, which is a lady that is very, very famous in the product community, and the product people here, I'm pretty sure they know her. So she defines product discovery as the work that we need to do in order to make the decision about what to build. So we have identified this idea, we have this opportunity, we have assessed that indeed we can build it, and it would be good for us. So now we start the phase where we iterating discover what we need in order to build a minimum viable product that solves the customer problems. So the minimum viable product is a product that has really one or two features at the most. Actually, one is always better. And it's the main feature, is the feature that really goes and gives the first solution to the specific product that we have found. The process of getting to the minimum viable product is iterative, because we go out to the customers. I mean, we cannot stay in-house. because we are, and this is something I say very often to the companies I work with. So we need to keep in mind that we are not the customer. Okay, so we might buy the product because maybe it's a product that we can use as well, but we are not the customer and we are not the user. So we cannot take decisions based on how we feel. We have to go out and really test whatever assumptions we are making. And in the product discovery, there are like different phases, you know, and it's, as you see, it's iterative, like it's a series of minimal viable, can start with an idea, then you go to the prototypes, then you start doing experiments until you really reach the product and you iterate. So you start with prototypes and frameworks, then you go down, you know, and start checking that this is really what the customer wants, and you do UX testing, A/B testing, you know, and then you analyze your findings, and then you adjust, and you start again until you reach a point where you feel strong enough in your idea, and then you move on to determine the business model. Again, what happens is that very often the business model, when we get here, we already have more or less an idea of how the business model is going to be. So as I said before, these are not really like literally how we will go from one phase to another. So the business model is, okay, we found this amazing idea, so we know that the customer is going to pay for it. So this is something that we have already validated at the very beginning, because otherwise we don't have a product, we don't have a business. So customers, we have to be sure that whatever we are going to build, customers are willing to pay for it. It cannot be a nice to have. So at this point, we know that the customers want the product, the customers want to buy it. So we more or less have an idea of what business model we can use, right? So the business models are, I don't know, is it going to be a B2C, maybe a SaaS, software as a service, or I don't know, an app that targets directly the consumer? Or is it going to be a B2B? Is it going to be a B2B2C? And what is important of this phase, it's that, again, also the business model has to mirror the idea that we have in the vision. So the idea that we have for the business, and that the product is supporting the business in that direction. So the business model has to keep in mind the long goal. To make you an example, I'm advising a company that works in the area of artificial intelligence, and they have a specific product, a very interesting one. And right now they have chosen the B2B because it suits better their market at the moment. But we have already looked at it. We have already built the strategy so that in the moment, the model, you know, the artificial intelligence platform that they're using is strong enough in the B2B area. They plan to move to the B2C, and they know that already. And if you know that already, you need to start thinking. You can't just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm just now going to throw myself into the B2C market, because the market is completely different than the B2B. There are different actors. The buyers think in a different way. So you need to know early enough where you want to go, what is the right direction for your business. Clearly, we're not thinking of, you know, writing in stone all the decisions that we are making, because the market is also not 100% predictable. Like to bring you an example, a very interesting one, in my newsletter two weeks ago, I actually broke down a company that was on track to make 300, it was a startup, they were on track to make 300 million annual revenue. And, you know, like in 12 months, they had to declare bankruptcy. And that's because they were basing, the name of the company is Videology, if you're interested. It was a very interesting product, a very successful one, but they had one problem. They were in the the online advertising space. And in 2015, Google decided to block access to YouTube to all external agencies. And their model was just focusing, so the online advertising space, it's advertising space in general, it's a very interesting field. I know it because last year I advised in a company in that space. Normally, when you go to an agency, you want them to be able to make the advertisement for you on YouTube and on every other channel. So by Google blocking access to YouTube, by only being able to access it by their own tools, it meant that the customers went directly with YouTube, with Google, because you don't want to have 3 agencies to go advertisement for you. And that killed a number of companies. So that's also another thing that we have to have in our strategy. So we need to understand what are the partners in our ecosystem and what happens if one of them falls or I cannot access it anymore. What's going to happen to me? That is super, super, super important. So to go back to the business model, so we identify how we're going to go to the market. Do we want to target directly consumers? Do we want to work with businesses, etc.? So there are 2 parts that belong to this one. One is designing the business models, which also will allow us to identify who are our buyers. Because if we go B2B is one buyer, if we go white label is another one, etc. And then here we look at the price strategy. So once we have idea of everything, we also need to decide how much we can charge for what we're building. And usually also the price strategy is iterative. Like it's unless you are a big company, you have a pool of customers and you have already understood how much they're willing to pay. Usually you have to play a bit with the price. You have to maybe you have to have like pillars, like for one group of people, you have one specific price for another one. So you play with that. That is also an iterative exercise. At this point, how do we bring the product to market? So here it comes, imply the go-to-market strategy, which is another part that is very discussed, and we hear a lot about it. So the idea is that once we have understood the business model and we analyze our audience, based on the audience, that we choose how we want to go to market. So the idea is that we need to understand who's the person that is going to pay and where is this person, how can we approach this person. Maybe if this person is already one of our customers, then we can do like a sales calls. Do we do a call, cold email, etc. So it really strongly depends on what your audience looks like. And then one thing is also the product launch. So once the product is well established, it could be done. You can also decide not to do a product launch, but usually the nice thing about product launch is that it gives you a precise moment in time where your product goes out to the public and you have prepared everything for that moment. You have prepared communications, you have prepared marketing, you have prepared maybe discounts, if the customers decide to test your product, etc. For product development, which is also part of product strategy. So the idea is, how do I develop? Product development is a very delicate part of the whole system, right? So there are many actors coming in place, especially if we talk about a tech product. You have the software development team, then you have the product people, then you have marketing, then you have communication, and you need to organize the product development so that it's also iterative. So the waterfall approach, I think it's out of play. I don't I don't really know, besides, the European Commission that still uses the waterfall approach, I don't really know of companies that today still use that one, because it's so rigid, while instead you still want an agile approach that gives you iteration. So you still want to be able at every phase of the product of going back and change, tune, fine tune the decisions that you have made and maybe come out to be not completely right for your customers. So I didn't really put any indication in the product development, but this is really the main message that I would like to give, is that roadmaps, the time that it takes, that's all part of the strategy, but it's really, really dependent on the product, on how many people are involved, on the size of the company. So I thought I wasn't going to put any specific things here, but just to talk about it, talk on the slide. And then the last part is product evolution and growth. Nothing can stop, especially if you are in the tech field. If you stop the evolution of any of your products, you're done. So you cannot find in tech a company, one of the major tech companies, that at some point decided, you know what, I have enough success, I don't need to evolve anymore. I'm just going to stay with what I have, and I'm going to be happily ever after for the rest of my life. That doesn't happen. The companies that have tried to do that, they have failed and they have disappeared. And I'm thinking specifically of BlackBerry, for example. I completely missed the train of the touchscreen phone. So there is always a part in your strategy. It needs to be devoted to how you're going to develop and evolve your product. And of course, it always comes from the customer. This is an exercise that you can try to do without the customer, but it's going to be extremely difficult, and the chance of succeeding can be extremely low. So, and the other part is growth. Okay, now we've brought the product to the market, so we've got our first customers. People seem happy. Where do we go from here? So the idea is that you do want to grow. You have to find a specific market, and you have looked how big this market is. So you want to try to take as much as possible from that market before you start targeting another one, before you start expanding. So normally you can use growth hacking strategies. These are very known, but you have to keep in mind that these are hacks. So a growth hack will bring you a spike in growth, and then that's it. So, and then you can do another one. So normally they give you a good growth at some point in time, but then that's it. So you might want to look at growth hacking strategy, and you might want to look at growth strategy. So how do I make sure that I continue growing until I'm ready then to expand? And another thing is revenue growth, which goes in hand with the growth of the product. Now, you might look at revenue growth in terms of I take more from the market, and then I earn more money. Or you might look at other strategies. You want to upsell, you want to change the product, etc. So I'm very conscious of the time. I think I took longer than I wanted to, but I'm done now. Thank you so much. I hope this has been not too boring for the people who have already a lot of experience, and still informative for the people that have less experience. I'm ready now for whatever question.
Perfect. Thank you, Alessandra. This was very, very, very interesting. And I think we have two questions. I guess you can see them in the chat. One is by Wendy and another one by Anthony. Maybe you'd like to address them. I think we still have like 5-10 minutes. Yeah,
we have 5 minutes, 10 minutes for sure, even 15. So, okay, no, do you want to tell me, like, I see one.
Yeah, it's just, okay, someone asked whether we can share the slides later. In terms of the recording, that's going to be made available by probably tomorrow. In terms of the slides, if you want us to share them with the participants, Alessandra, you can just forward them to me and I can send out an email.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. So in the email, there is also all the links to me, so I don't have a problem. I'm very happy to share the slides. And the other one, I see myself like, what is the best time to begin testing and what types of testing? Does this involve customers and automation? Oh, I love this question because I have my favorite answer. So so one of the phases that I love the most in tech development, tech products development, is the beta testing. As soon as you have, so first of all, you start by testing the idea, right? So you need to validate your idea. So you start testing from the very beginning. No, so you have an idea, you need to go out and validate that this idea is the right one. And I always suggest this wonderful book, which is called the MAM test. I think it's also very hilarious. It's a small book, if you haven't read it, I suggest to read it because it's also funny. Exactly, it's a great book. And the title, the MAM test, says it all. Like, you can't go to your mom and pitch an idea to your mom, because even if your mom understands nothing of that idea, she's still gonna tell you that it's a great idea. So you have to be able to go out, to really put the idea in front of people, and test that the idea is valid. And then you continue to do that type of testing. And once you start having software, so you have your MVP with like the one feature that you want to test, my suggestion is go for beta testing. Beta testing allows you to onboard users, to have a close relationship with them, because it's going to be like a small pool of users, and they know that your product is in beta. So if something doesn't work, they won't get mad. They'll be very open to provide feedback to help you grow and strengthen your product. And there are examples of very successful companies that just have been in beta testing for extremely long. One example is HubSpot, for example. They were in beta testing like for 2 years, because this is one specific phase that you cannot roll back. Once you're done with the beta testing, you're done. So your product is out on the market, and then you cannot tell them. They get mad at you if something doesn't work. So in the beta testing, you can go down. You can talk to them. So that's one of the best moment in testing. So I would say, as soon if we talk about software, as soon as you have a working MVP, this is when I would start testing. I would go in beta test. I would have an agreement with the users. I would ask them to test the product, maybe for free, or for a very small amount of money, because sometimes having the customers, paying for your product is also a way to test your idea, because there is a lot of situations where customers will tell you that they love the idea, that they will pay, but when the moment comes, they actually don't, which means that you don't have a product, you don't have a valid business. So I hope this answers your question, Anthony.
I'm sure it was quite informative, Anthony. I'm not sure if you have any comments, or whether there might be any other questions. All right. I think if there are no more questions, then clap for Alessandra.
Thank you very much. This was fun. This was fun. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Ebony. So thanks, everyone. Once again, make sure to go more on the website to learn more about upcoming events and workshops, and also send us an email.
Oh, I think there is just another question.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
Yeah,
this is by Douglas. Okay.
Yes, Douglas. Okay, MVP works great for the development of something new, but how to do that when you're creating a new version of something that already exists, like a project to change the platform of a system when the first version that goes public has to address the existing features already? Okay, very, very interesting. That's also a very interesting question, and it's true. Like MVP, when we think of MVP, we think more of a new product that customers don't already have. So usually when you create a new version, at least that is also my strong experience, especially when I was working as a product manager, as a software developer, because I started as first as a researcher, then I moved on developing software, then I went on being a project and product manager. It depends on the product. So you still, even when a new version of something that is already existing, you still have a testing time. You never send out something that isn't tested, right? So you still have either like your engineers will test, the version, doing stress tests and things like that. And then you do the release, then you do the rollout to the customers. So what happens there, and it happens unfortunately very often in the software world, is that your customer might still find bugs. So it happens very often with new versions of an existing software that when you go out, something might go wrong. But then it's all a matter of communication with your customers. You have to tell them in advance that you're rolling out a new version, so they know. You have to be prepared with your customer support because you want to get these calls, whenever they come in, etc. But you still have a testing phase, which is normally, if I understood well what Douglas means, normally when you have a new version of something that already exists, either is like new features that you're adding, or if you're changing the underlying platform, it means that, like you have the same software, so the interview is similar. You're just changing the base of the software, and that is a bigger project. When you change the platform of the system, that's not like just few things, So that usually is a project with milestones, with the specific roadmap that you have to go through before you can actually release to the public. Douglas, does that answer your question? I hope it does, because I hope I understood correctly. Yes, yes. That usually, if I just refer to what you have in your question, the change, like to change the platform of a system, this normally is a waterfall project. That's true, because you rarely go out, with half. Oh, well, I mean, you don't really tell your customers that, like, it's that you're doing a waterfall. That's really internal to the company, I would say. As I said, like before, yeah, exactly, Andrew, that's correct. So waterfall is very suitable when you know already all the requirements. So already, if you're changing the platform, it means that the features will most likely stay the same. So already all the requirements of your customers. In that case, it becomes an internal project. So everything is managed internally all the way down to testing until you're ready to roll out. And as I said, like I worked for many, many years directly with the commission, and the commission uses the waterfall approach because the projects they have, they already know all the requirements at the beginning, so they use that. So it depends. It depends, Scott. I think it depends on the software. It depends on the project. If you have a project that allows you to release, like let's assume it's a software in modules, no, like an ERP or something, then you can still release in Agile, and you release the modules, you test the modules. But that really also depends on your customers and on your internal policies, because in some cases it can become expensive. But that's true, can be done.
Perfect. Thank
Right.
you, Douglas, for the interesting question.
Thank you,
Perfect.
everyone, for the interesting questions and comments. This has been fun. As I said, feel free to go on the Eventbrite, because there is the link to my LinkedIn. And from my LinkedIn, like, I would love to connect with you all, to stay in touch. You know, from my LinkedIn, you can see all the other, like the link to my newsletter and everything. You know, so this has been really a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Alessandra. Thanks, everyone. And make sure to visit our website for more events on topics like product, AI, data science, blockchain. And actually, we have another event in 30 minutes, the London Data Science Meetup, for those of you who want to join. Actually, let me send details to everyone. We will be posting them. We will be posting the Zoom on the events page as well, in case you want to join. And yeah, hopefully see you in half an hour, or otherwise in some other one of our events. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.